In school, when you would fill out what your parents did for a living, I would write trimmings, not knowing what the heck it was.
When they opened up the window in the sweatshop, I used to go play on the roof. A great place for you to play.
I said, God, let the morning come quick so I can go to my sewing machine. I think I'm nuts.
Hello and welcome to Sewing Community, the podcast where local Westchester area residents share their life in fabric and thread. I am your host, Aaron Page, Director of Folk Arts at ArtsWestchester, the officially designated arts council for Westchester County, New York. For the last several months, ArtsWestchester has been teaming up with Amanda Browder, a Brooklyn-based fabric artist, to transform our 9-story building in White Plains into a cascading, colorful fabric installation. All of the stories heard in this podcast were collected from individual volunteers who've been involved in the building of this monumental work of public art. Our hope is that the stories shared here will in some small way sustain and deepen the social fabric of our sewing community. This week's episode features several interviews conducted at the ArtsWestchester, the largest agency in Westchester County supporting children, teens, and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including individuals on the autism spectrum and their families. Special guests include Nancy Patoda, Teresa Lombardi, Yulia Daniels, Cynthia Ferguson, and Maria Robson.
Hi, my name is Nancy Patoda, and I'm the Executive Director of the ArtsWestchester Foundation. And I live in Rye, New York, but I'm really a native Westchester person. I was born in White Plains, I lived in New Rochelle, and now I've been in Rye for about 15 years. I am one of 8 daughters, number 5 actually, and our grandmother who lived with us for about 25 years after the babies were born and my mom could use some help with all these kids. She was a seamstress. Actually, her family were upholsterers, but she really refined her craft and was able to sew lots of clothes and stuff for us as kids, which, of course, as you can imagine, was very helpful for my mother. Trying to clothe and feed 8 kids is always a challenge. My grandmother was a bit of a perfectionist, so of course when we would go out, we'd go to the store where you used to be able to buy patterns, and we would pick a pattern for a dress or a top and bottom or something along those lines that was fashionable at the time, and we'd be so excited to get home and get started on it, and then of course the lesson would start. Lay it this way, you have to cut against the nap, with the nap, you need to do facing, you need to do and of course we would quickly get frustrated and anxious and we'd say, okay, Granny, well then you do it. And then of course she would do a beautiful job, but it definitely hindered us from learning exactly the way to do some of this really high quality sewing. But my mother, who was also quite adept at sewing, but she really enjoyed crocheting. And I remember as a little kid learning how to crochet from my mother. And to this day, I'm still crocheting. I just became a grandmother for the first time. And what did I do first? But crochet a blanket and a hat and little booties for the baby, a little boy, because that's what my mother would do. If she was still around, she would have been crocheting it. So to me, it's sort of a kind of family legacy that I can pass down and now make this beautiful crochet piece for them. And one of the things that I realized the other day, because I also made a blanket for a woman who works with me who is recovering from an injury. Very often I'll go out and I'll buy yarn. I don't necessarily have a person or a project in mind. I just liked the yarn, or it was on sale or whatever, and I'll get started on a blanket, and before I finish it, a recipient always shows himself or herself. That's one of the most beautiful things about it. And as I was crocheting it, I realized she was coming back to work after being out for a couple of weeks, and I said, that's who's going to get this blanket. And I brought it in on the first day that she was back, and it brought tears to her eyes, and she told me the other day that she can't wait to get onto the couch at night and put this cozy blanket on her. And I always say it's wrapping you in love, because every one of those stitches is love. That's the power of these, doing things with your hands, it brings you back to where you came from and the people that taught you to be who you are. So I look at this and I say to myself, Granny would be in heaven in this room today, although she was a bit of a perfectionist. So, we're giving folks in that room a little bit more of a free-for-all to design and be creative, and seams don't have to be perfect, colors don't have to exactly match. It's all about diversity and inclusion, which is really what we're all about as well. Everybody who's in there has a hand in it, so everybody's contributing in a way, and everybody looks at the fabrics a different way. I'm looking at a particular fabric, and I could be seeing it completely differently than somebody else is, but that's okay, because it's all basically coming together, all different perspectives, all different levels of creativity, sewing skills or no sewing skills. It doesn't matter. It's all coming together, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. I often say the activity is not even as important as the community coming together. It's almost secondary. When we create activities, all it is really an opportunity to bring people from, the outer community into our environment and create connections. It gives them something to do while they're getting to know each other. And we find it's more, it's helpful for especially a new volunteer to kind of break the ice with somebody in the program if they're working on something together. I'm a person, I have a story. I have likes, I have dislikes, I have family. I like this color red. I like this texture. I have shoes that are that way, or I like your handbag. I mean, it's the connections happen, and that's a wonderful thing to take with you out after this project, out into the greater community.
My name is Teresa Lombardi. I'm from Somers, New York. I work at ARC of Westchester, and we support individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. I found out about the project that Amanda Browder was spearheading. I attended the workshop at night last month, and I was intrigued with her, especially when she said that it's not just a quilt. She said that it's fabric art. And that intrigued me. And every time I was trying to explain it to somebody, I stopped myself from saying it's not quilting. We were making a work of art. And what meant a lot to me is that I used to work in banking, and 31 Mamaroneck, where this is going to be draped over, is where I started my career. So that building there means a lot to me. It has a lot of memories, and I cannot wait to see this done. So when I attended your workshop, I thought about the individuals, the population that we serve, and I thought it would be an excellent idea to open up ARC of Westchester to ArtsWestchester for you guys to come and share your love of the arts with our guys who want to learn more about the arts. The past 2 days have been absolutely incredible. Here at ARC, I handle recreation and coming up with different ideas to give our guys and gals a sense of purpose, and them experiencing Aaron and Amanda and the work that you guys do for the community. You're bringing so many people together. We have so many young men and women that want to now learn how to sew. We didn't have that before. I've been here for 2 years, and maybe one individual out of 105 has mentioned sewing. Today, I've probably had 25. So I thank you for bringing that to us. They also got to see how these donations of fabric were donated, dropped off, and there's different stories behind all of the fabric. We had a staff from Ghana. She ran to the other side of the room because she saw a piece of fabric that reminded her of Ghana. Amanda stopped her and said, "Yes, a gentleman came and dropped this off who was from Ghana. He had this piece of fabric laying in the house." So it was just incredible. And then the stories to find out about how Aaron spent some time in Ghana, and we have staff here from Ghana. So it just brought everybody together to find out more about each other and just to celebrate the arts. So I cannot wait for this sculpture, this fabric sculpture to go up at 31 Mamaroneck. And for our groups to go by and look up and say, hey, I did that.
Yulia Daniels. I live in Pleasantville and I'm 22. I'm very interested in sewing because I started in middle school with academics, with cooking and sewing, and so I started that. And then when I got to high school, they had a sheet saying, would you like to start a costume crew? Me and my friends started it, and so I'm the one who likes sewing the most, and they just came along to volunteer. So I did that for 4 years, and then I signed up for sewing class, and then I did that for 2 years. I had my own machine. I made so much stuff. I made like tote bags, pajamas, a skirt. I love fashion. I love making things. It helps me to relax. It's just a good thing. It's really, really a good skill to have. Everyone should have it. My grandpa's wife did sewing for like stuffed animals. My parents told me about her, and so I said, okay, that's how I got inspired by my grandma, and so I started from there. I think it's positive that everyone's volunteering, everyone's working together, that people are learning to do things, to have their hands on all together. To make something huge for the town. It's very helpful. I think it's important because people don't have what you have, and making things for others will inspire them. You see homeless people and you want to make clothes or blankets for them. I don't need to make something for myself, but I need to make for others to make them happy.
Cynthia Ferguson, and I now live in Ossining, New York. I won a sewing machine at the 1964 World's Fair, and when I went to pick it up, I had to buy the cabinet. However, I then got married and decided to learn through the Arts of Westchester how to sew. Made maternity clothes, and when the children came along, I started sewing for them because I have a daughter who is dwarfed, and she was toilet trained and did not need to wear snap crotch clothing, but was in that size. And I wanted her to look more her age. And it's gone on from there. So I learned to sew for her. And then I sewed for my 2 sons. I sewed coats, hats, suits. I can't tell you all the stuff. Strictly pattern. I don't have the machine anymore now because I gave it to my daughter-in-law. She wanted to get one. I said, good, take it. I'm not using it.
My name's Maria Robson, and I live in Harrison, New York. My interest came because of growing up really loving certain characters and wanting to be them. So I wanted to learn how it came because I wanted to make it so I could be, I'm proud to be this character because I made it. The reason I want to learn to sew is because to be able to see fabric in a pile, to come from that into clothing that fits, and seeing how you can make so creative with different process that it could be like, oh, you can see this as more into something, it might be ugly fabric, but you can make something so beautiful out of it.